folks, I'm Neal Barton. Thank you very much for being with us today for East Texas in Focus. We'll get started right now. First of all, focusing on the feds for our FBI edition. Here in our area, federal agents on high alert. There's a crisis on every corner these days. The Israel-Hamas war right now is heating up there, and school shootings also scaring a lot of people in social media, and fentanyl being smuggled through our southern border. And we're wondering what's being done to keep you safe. That's why we're bringing in today Chad Yarbrough from Van, Texas, a special agent in charge of the Dallas FBI. Thank you for being here with us.
Well, thanks, Neal, for having me.
That's quite the job. So you're here, a local boy in Van. So FBI, how did that happen?
Well, you know, I always wanted to be in the FBI, and my journey just led me there.
What made you want to be the FBI agent?
You know, ever since I was a little kid, I always wanted to be in law enforcement, and so I was just driven to this work.
That's great. So I hope that you can stay a spell, because used to, we got a chance to really know most of our FBI agents here, and one FBI agent told me, the RIP thing is too bad. And I said, what is that? That is retirement in place. Too many guys got here to East Texas, liked it, and stayed. But you guys got to rotate every couple of years, right?
We do, and definitely this journey has taken me all over the country and around the world. But my hope is that this is my last stop.
So you can stay in Dallas as long as you want to, perhaps?
Perhaps.
So tell us about your background, because I used to read about the G-men, or now G-women as they used to call them. You had to be an accountant, or you had to be a lawyer. Nowadays, that's not the case, right?
No, it's not. Obviously, we were looking for all kinds of backgrounds when it comes to the FBI.
Tell us about that.
Well, particularly the STEM graduates. You know, we're looking for those with cybersecurity, cyber degrees, data analyst, you know, those specialties that are really hard to come by these days.
What was your background?
So my background was accounting. There you go, right? And,
were you CPA?
I am, and so, you know, it was an awkward journey for me. I never really did a day of accounting. I joined federal law enforcement right after graduating college, and haven't looked back since. So.
Here's what's amazed me, though, is because you guys are pretty much sophisticated, erudite, white-collar sort of job, but you also have to be able to fight and shoot. I used to shoot ski with a guy that was a G-man here, and the guy who grew up in the city, he never missed. You guys have extensive training with firearms.
Absolutely. We have a 16-week academy now, and obviously a huge part of that is firearms training.
So how long, what do you learn book-wise to become a G-man?
Well, you know, we obviously study the law, we study the Constitution. You know, there's firearms training, there's defensive tactics. You know, you don't only have to be book smart and understand the law and know the law, but you also have to be able to defend yourself in certain situations.
So you go to Quantico, Virginia, right?
That's correct.
So tell us about your training there.
So Quantico is an amazing place. A lot of history there, obviously back from the Hoover days forward, and it's right there on the Marine Corps base there in Quantico, and it's just you know, 16 weeks of tough but challenging work to get us prepped and ready for the field.
Where was your first position?
My first office was in Alabama, Mobile.
How did you like that?
You know, it was an interesting time, you know, being an accountant and then coming into the Bureau and being thrust right into violent crime and crimes against children cases was an interesting take on.
And even though you guys are pretty much get the badge, the whole thing dispatched out to the USA, you have to keep current in law and also in firearms training, right?
Absolutely. So we obviously qualify every quarter with our firearms. And
it's pretty rigorous, I hear.
It's a rigorous course, and we have multiple platforms that we have to qualify on.
What got you guys really upgrading, though? In 1986, there was a horrible bank robbery in Miami, and the FBI was outgunned. So that's when you guys really stepped it up with everything, from what I understand.
Absolutely. So the Miami shootout was definitely a transition point for the FBI, and so that immediately pushed us into carrying longer rifles and shotguns, and now we exclusively carry a rifle.
Which brings me to this question. You guys are always in the flux of upgrading firearms or anything else. Things have changed a whole lot since Mr. Hoover. Used to the FBI hunting bank robberies and that sort of thing, but nowadays you guys are into everything. Tell me about that.
So our threats range greatly, whether it's counterterrorism and counterintelligence on the national security side, or whether it's violent crime and the traditional criminal activity that you would think of us and the FBI being involved in, white-collar crime. It really spans the gamut there.
But pretty much talk more about the computer things, because this is the age of the computer. It's just not the bank robbery anymore. So what's a typical day like for you? What are you looking for?
Well, the cyber threat has obviously emerged and grown over the years, and it has definitely played a significant impact on the Bureau and our work. I will tell you that one of the biggest threats that we face right now is China and other nation-state actors who are trying to conduct intrusions into our critical infrastructure. They're trying to get our secrets. They're stealing our intellectual property.
Yes.
And so I would say that that's one of the biggest threats posed from a cyber perspective.
I don't really understand this because pretty much you got common sense. You're from Van, Texas. I know China's a problem. Some of our politicians refuse to talk about that. How come we can't get on the same page and say China is a huge threat?
Well, I know that we've been beating the drum about China and the threat that it poses. It obviously wants to be a world dominating power, and they'll do anything they can to make that happen.
How are they doing that, make things happen?
Well, obviously they're building their infrastructure when it comes to cyber activity, and they've grown over the years in that.
For someone who basically is a Luddite like myself, so pretty much what does that mean, computer-wise? How are they doing this?
Well, obviously, they leverage their military and their intelligence branches to conduct these intrusions. They train all the time. They have some of the they steal our secrets, right? And they steal a lot of our education and how we're training our computer
people.
Yeah.
You got to stop it. We're stopping for right now. That's a good start. When we come back for East Texas in Focus, we're with Chad. Be right back. Back into it right now, talking about the fentanyl. This really makes me frustrated because it's such a problem. And it's almost like sometimes with the federal government, if this was a gun problem, they'd be all over it. How come we're not tackling fentanyl more?
We're definitely putting as many resources as we can to it. We're working with our partners at the state and local level.
And who you partner with?
So we're partnering obviously on different task forces. Here we have the Tyler Police Department, we have Smith County Sheriff's Office, and other departments throughout East Texas that are working hand in hand with us on the drug problem here in fentanyl.
And some of that is coming across the border and coming from China, isn't it?
Sure. Well, Cartel Jalisco and the Sinaloa cartel continue to pump the fentanyl into Texas and throughout the country.
Because used to it here, I've been here for 20 years, and used to, we were told by some peace officers who have retired, and that's good because they used to always say, there's no cartel here in East Texas. There is the cartel here in East Texas.
Absolutely. We see the cartel in all 50 states.
And so what are they up to?
Well, obviously, they are all about money and profit, and fentanyl is a low entry cost, and they're able to make a significant amount of money.
When you say low entry cost, what does that mean for someone like me?
So they can buy the precursors in bulk. A lot of that is coming out of China into Mexico, and ultimately being manufactured and then pushed into the States.
How do we stop China from doing that?
Well, that's a complicated question.
I know some things you can't talk about.
Yep. That really gets into more, I think, the political aspects that I hate to get into.
Okay. Let's talk about human trafficking, because that's something else that is always talked about here. How big of a problem is it in Texas?
Well, human trafficking has been a longstanding threat here in Texas, whether that's child trafficking or human trafficking, sexual trafficking. All that's been present here in the East Texas area for a long time.
Not to get too political, but once again, the border is a huge problem. The administration says we have control of the border, but if you got one eye that works, I don't think we've been in border control, because people are coming across left and right. We don't know where these people are coming from. You look at what's going on right now in Israel, you look at Hamas and this sort of thing or whatever. What the heck is going on?
Well, we definitely, if you've watched some of the director's testimony in front of Congress, we're extremely concerned about the southwest border and what's occurring there. And obviously, we're working with the Department of Homeland Security, who's responsible for that border protection. But what I will tell you is over the last few years, we've definitely seen an uptick in counterterrorism threat reporting. And more specifically, recently, with the Israel-Hamas conflict, we've seen a very big spike in threat reporting. especially
here?
Both here in East Texas and in North Texas, and more importantly across the country, where we're really seeing targeted violence towards the Jewish community, synagogues, even Arabs and Muslims, and the mosque as well.
So the fear is some of those people that may be coming across the border illegally are somehow tied to Hamas and other terroristic nations or people in that part of the world, right?
Well, obviously, that's definitely a concern for us. I think more importantly, it's that lone offender threat. Whether it's a homegrown violent extremist who's being radicalized by foreign terrorist organizations such as Al-Qaeda, ISIS, or Hamas, or whether it's a racially motivated violent extremist here who is motivated by hate and sees this as maybe something inspirational for him to conduct an attack on a particular race or ethnicity or religion.
Yeah, and we're also having trouble with Mexico and the cartels because it seems like the government of Mexico is not too concerned about what's going on.
Well, obviously,
how do you push back against a quote-unquote ally?
Yeah, obviously we work as closely as we can with our Mexican counterparts and our personnel who are embedded down in Mexico and fighting every day with the DEA on this exact problem.
What do we need to do? You always say, pick up the phone and call the FBI. About what?
So I will tell you what really keeps me up at night, Neal, is the fact that we need as much information as we can regarding individuals who are espousing extreme hate, but also have indicators that they could mobilize to violence. And so, if you see something suspicious, we're asking the public to please report it.
Are you guys also dealing with identity theft?
We do. Obviously, credit card fraud,
on and on.
Computer fraud and schemes, especially as we approach the holidays, we're going to see a big spike in all of the various cyber fraud. And so we're definitely encouraging people to be careful when they're doing their holiday online shopping.
So how do you be careful?
Well, you definitely need to know which website you're on, and you need to research any website that's not a popular name brand website and do your due diligence, because usually that deal that's too good to be true is too good to be true.
They're even saying nowadays don't swipe your card, you put it over some sort of like little eye or whatever and do that.
Sure. You could tap it, to make sure that you're not swiping. Yep.
That's good. What else?
Well, I just appreciate the time here today.
We're not done yet, though.
Oh, okay.
Not done yet.
All right.
We're about to go to break. Let's go to break, and I want to ask you about recruiting people you're looking to help
Absolutely.
fight, okay? When we come back, basically talking about questions for our special agent here. Please go nowhere. And welcome back to Chad Yarbrough, SAC in Dallas. So you pretty much running the whole office, right? You're the man. From van to being the man.
I tell you, it's 137 county territory, a little over 125,000 square miles.
How many people do you have in the office?
We have close to 700.
Oh my gosh. So you're the boss.
I tell you.
You don't sleep at night, do you? Let me ask you a question. People like yourself who want to be in the FBI, you guys are in the constant state of recruitment. You should. Who are you looking for to join the FBI? Because when you think about an FBI agent, you think about somebody toting a gun with a shotgun, rifle, whatever. But there's plenty of people who work as G people who are not armed, who work with computers, right?
Absolutely. Obviously,
what are you looking for?
A big push for us right now are STEM candidates.
Okay, explain what STEM is.
Sure. Those who science, technology, computer backgrounds, data analysts, computer scientists. We see obviously that huge threat emanating around the world when it comes to cyber threats. And then our traditional law enforcement, military backgrounds, accounting and law degrees. That's what we're really looking for.
That's good. So once again, you guys have your eyes peeled on Israel. What should we expect in the future? What are you looking for?
Well, obviously, it's all about vigilance and awareness. We shouldn't be living in a state of fear and worry.
No.
But we definitely have to be vigilant and aware.
Are you guys also in the business of trying to stop school shootings?
Absolutely.
So what do we do?
I think it goes back, more recently. Obviously, my first experience in Dallas was the response to the Allen Outlet Mall shooting, where numerous individuals were killed by a racially motivated violent extremist. He was a white supremacist. He had discussed his ideology and biases, and had also talked about his fascination with mass killings and active shooters. And I think if we would encourage the public just to report that, because I think if we had that, we could maybe be doing a preventative response versus a reactive response.
Years ago in Florida, the school was shut up down there. They did call an 800 line for the FBI. They didn't get it till a couple of days later. So how can that be bettered?
Well, I can tell you we've made a lot of advancements since then.
I hope so. Yeah.
Absolutely. We have a whole threat operations section now that takes about 4,000 calls and tips a day. And
how many?
4,000.
Wow.
And they're turning those around as quickly as they receive them and shooting them into the field. We have a very structured process now on how we handle our tips.
So what have I not asked you so far that you want people to know about today's modern FBI?
Well, I tell you, Neal, the men and women of the Dallas FBI are working day and night, 24/7, 365, away from their families, dedicated to the mission to protect the American public and uphold the Constitution. And I think that's what I'd like to highlight today.
And we have a Tyler office as well, right?
We do. We have a robust Tyler office here. They cover, all of East Texas. We have an office in Lufkin and an office in Texarkana as well.
Thank you, sir. When we come back after the break, closing words from me and the SAC right here. We'll be right back. All right, final thoughts?
Neal, it's about vigilance and awareness. 1-800-CALL-FBI if anyone has any information that they'd like to report to us.
So once again, if somebody wants to be involved in the FBI, either in school or whatever, what subjects should they take and to gear themselves up?
Well, obviously that cyber background that we talked about is definitely critical, but they can find out a little bit more on fbi.jobs.gov.
And so pretty much it's all laid out there on what you need to do. Is that how you got in the FBI?
I took a career path that led me into an internship and ultimately into the position.
You can start that way then.
I did.
And maybe you don't get it the first time, the second time you will.
That's right.
Thanks for being with us, sir. We appreciate your help, and thank you for guarding our country. God bless you, sir, for your service. Next week, more issues right here in East Texas. That's all that's going on. Join us Saturday night after Fox 51 News at 9. We'll see you. Have a great weekend.